And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Well, hello and welcome to a very special edition of Guerilla Roundup. Uh, yes, the test match is over, but the roundup continues on apace because today I'm blessed with the visit of our guru and master, Hendo, Nigel Henderson, the master of the Hendo rant, and one whose beatification is close in Guerilla Towers, but he needs to do a few more rants in the meantime. And part of the reason for this, apart from giving you something to occupy your time up until the Boxing Day test starts, is to give Hendo a chance to explain to you what it is he's doing at the moment to attract your attention and hopefully bring in a little income for him, because he's poor as a church mouse. And welcome, Hendo. Tell us what you're up to.
Well, yes, thanks, Messi, for giving this or giving me this opportunity to self-promote on an incredible basis. Um, it's something I've been thinking about for a long while. I've been thinking about doing a Substack or having my own platform. I suppose it harks back to the days of when blogs were first in vogue back in the, what was it? I think I started a blog in about 2008, and then it kind of fell apart, really, because of work, and the sofa of course came along, and so I was pretty busy still freelancing. So I hadn't really had apart from Guerilla and Twitter and Facebook, I hadn't really had an outlet for getting excitable about cricket, and there's so much to be excitable about, especially where England are concerned. And talking of excitable, I've got an excitable cat that is just popping up to say hello. There he is.
Oh, excellent. We
That
always
is
get our views up when there are cats on.
that is he's going to show your face, or he's just going to go over and smell my tea. That's Felix. You can see they're wandering in the background, or in the foreground, in fact. Yeah, no, I just felt that what I was reading in, I suppose you'd call it the mainstream, although of course there are some brilliant writers in the mainstream. A lot of it was very simplistic, in terms of the Bazball approach, if you want to call it that. It
Yeah.
really is a terrible, terrible name. Um, there surely has to be a better one. Of course, I did coin one back in the day, Stokey Cullum, the Stokey Cullum ball, which I thought was a much better, because it also included Stokes and Rob Key, of course, the man who
Yes.
employs these people. But I just felt that rather than ranting on Facebook when I see someone say something ridiculous, I might as well rant on my own platform, and with a bit of luck, get some money out of it. Because as you say, I've been without any work for now 19 months, and while I'm not expecting lots and lots of people to sign up and give me cash, sort of without having read a goodly number of pieces and feel it's worthwhile. It would be nice if they did. Let's put it that way.
Ah,
So yeah, I think there's just a lot to be said about not just the cricket that is being played, but about where the game is going, where um, the people involved, are they the right people that should be pushing cricket forward? Um, and I just suppose I wanted to get it off my chest. I wanted to write well as I can. It's not just simply stream of consciousness, although I suppose a rant in one sense it is. Um, but yeah, I guess it was just a case of having seen Substack come along, and what people were doing with it, that it felt like a good thing to do. And to be to be honest, it's been it's been firing my rants, fueling my rants because the technology is so outrageously difficult. As well. I mean, I've got at least 5 technical bug reports into their IT team, and well, we're a week on, they're supposed to reply to you within about 3 days, according to their what I asked their chatbot. But I'm still waiting to hear anything. So what? We're 5, 6, no, 7 days into when I first filed my report. So it's very irritating, but I'm sure we'll get there in the end. And it doesn't stop me ultimately publishing stuff. It's just a bit more long-winded in that respect. Long-winded, maybe that's the rant itself.
Well, I think there's a certain satisfying irony in the fact that your first rant is actually about the platform for the HendoRant that's
Yes,
going to be
indeed,
published.
indeed.
I've got to say that as a long-term listener, originally on the sofa, but mostly with Guerilla, I'm not alone in actually looking forward to the Hendo rant. There's a certain grim satisfaction in having someone share the emotions that I have, but eloquently and loudly on air. And I've absolutely no doubt that there will be plenty of other people who will enjoy that. The beauty from my point of view, too, is that if you put them in writing, you write very well. I really enjoyed, in particular, your book on the tour of Australia that was such a disaster for the England side, but which you enjoyed nonetheless, I suspect. And just reading it in that style, it's something very enjoyable. So a reminder that for anybody interested in finding your rants, we will put a link to them at the bottom of this page under the YouTube video, so you can just click on that and go straight there and see if it's for you. But I'm going to invite Hendo to do a few rants. Bear in mind that he's not actually a miserable person, but he does have things to get off his chest. And perhaps I can start with the biggest elephant in the room, which is the performance of the England Test team over the last 3 Test matches and the preceding 4 years. Maybe put some perspective around it, Hendo, as how you've seen the progress over that period and where you see the light at the end of the tunnel afterwards.
Well, I think the bit about the light at the end of the tunnel is a tough one. I think it's receding. Put it that way, the tunnel's getting longer. To be honest, I find one of the things that makes me more angry than anything is when I see people talking about the McCullum era and then saying, "Oh, but go back to what it was before. Is that what you want?" Well, actually, look back. It wasn't so bad, was it? Okay, in those years before McCullum, it was a bit tricky. Joe Root was not the best captain, but he may be the best batsman, but he's not the best captain. And not surprisingly, because let's face it, he'd only, I think, ever captained in one first-class game before he was asked to take on that role for England. And I think what England is doing and has been doing and accelerated during the Baz McCullum era is that they are throwing players to the wolves. I'm trying to find another way of saying throwing people under the bus, but I think that there's been a lot of that during the McCullum era, despite the fact that they have been putting forward this idea of squad loyalty and we're all in it together. That sounds familiar if you're English, doesn't it? If you're into the political scene as well. And yet some players have been treated abominably for all the Zach Crawleys that there have been, which is basically Zach Crawley. There have been the Dan Lawrences, the Rayan Ahmeds,
Jack Leach, even
Jack
Bairstow.
Leach's, Bairstow. I think people will say maybe he's past his best. I mean, he probably is past his best. I mean, how long does a cricketer have at their absolute peak? But none of these guys like Bairstow, who was I see flying in and out of India, wasn't he, a few years ago, and getting ducks here and there, and getting a lot of flack for it. But let's face it, are there many players that are doing better than him certainly in this series, and certainly in the subcontinent? India know what they're going to produce, and I have to say that trying to play Bazball against the turning and bouncing ball that you're going to get on those pitches is doomed to failure, because it's not just the fact that the ball is turning and spinning. Is that when you're playing slow bowling in general, it is harder for you to time the ball, or harder for you to actually hit the ball long distances. You can do it maybe 3 out of 4 times, but the 4th time you'll probably be caught on the boundary when the ball is doing that much. You can get away with it to a certain extent on quick pitches against pace bowling, because you just need to time the ball. The ball will come off the bat. You can deflect. You can pick up runs that way. So I think it's flawed. And in Pakistan, of course, the last time we went there, having scored, what was it, 700, 800 in our first innings with that triple century from Brook, the Pakistanis caught on to what we were doing and suddenly produced fantastic turning pitches for 2 fairly journeyman spinners, which was too much for England from that on in. And of course, with India, we know that they've got top class spinners, being produced on a mass scale. So, in a sense, possibly the only place it would work at the moment for us is Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, and that's probably only because they're quite weak. And I'm not even sure about Bangladesh if they produced an absolute Bunsen burner, but we don't go there too often, so that's doesn't really come into the equation.
Let me be the devil's advocate for a moment, if you will. When McCallum first arrived, it's unarguable that there was a massive improvement in the performance in a number of English players. I think it's fair to state that there was a core of 4 who were always going to be good: Stokes, Root, Anderson, and Broad. Had done the work, had the talent, had the application, and were great, but the others weren't. But for that first 12, 18 months, there was something quite remarkable that did happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that a really good game at Lords against New Zealand, I think maybe in the first of that series in 2022, where I think it was Root and Folkes got us over the line playing reasonably solid cricket rather than anything too adventurous. And I think it was the next game where both New Zealand and England got 500 in their first innings, and England were left with 299 to chase in quite a short space of time. And that was the perfect moment for Bazball to announce itself, really. And Johnny Bairstow was absolutely immense that day. It was extraordinary to watch. I sort of can almost see the look of what the heck's going on from Matt Henry, as another ball disappeared over deep square leg. But of course, Trent Bridge is a lovely place to be able to hit the ball. It's an incredibly fast outfield. Not that Bairstow was actually often using the outfield, because he was putting it over the fence, but it really is a good place to play that kind of cricket. And it was refreshing, and it was remarkable, and it was we at Guerilla, I think I say in one of my rants that we were just looking at each other and thinking, this is crazy, it can't last. But of course it did last. I think the problem, of course, is that once you've done it once, or not even once, but once you've done it a few times, and opponents can see the way that you're going to go, and if you announce to the world that we are not going to compromise on this, we're going to go the same way every game, then good teams will just sit in and wait for you to make your mistakes. And I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, because the Australians, I mean, I never bought this worst team in years in Australia, because they're just great bowlers. Even those guys that come in know how to put the ball on a lengthened line, and I don't know whether that's a spillover ever since Glenn McGrath, or whether it's to do with it being more difficult to get wickets in Australia, so Australian bowlers learn to be more rigorous. It could be a mixture of those things, but there's been, one after the other of bowlers like that, some of whom are no longer in the team or have been, are unable to get there into it because it's strong. So I never really bought this idea that that this was the worst Australian team in years, especially as I thought, and funnily enough, as it turned out, that Travis Head should open, and when he has opened, he's been absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, certainly some fortuitous events have assisted Australia, but not as much as England have. One of the things that strikes me about the McCallum approach is that it was such an all or nothing thing, that if you bought into it, you were part of the club, but if you didn't, then you weren't invited inside the tent. And it does seem to me that the exclusion of coaches on technique, on really hard training, which is at the core of Australian cricket anyhow, seem to be self-defeating in so many ways.
I think it is. I mean, I think it's almost it's fine to be positive, but you have to marry that positivity with some realism, and so you have to have that in your mind, that you can't hit every ball. I mean, Dan Lawrence, I'm not sure that he's an incredibly classy Test batsman, but he's showed promise at times. I thought in India he showed promise against the spin there, the way that he played. But after that he was taken around the world, wasn't given a game, and then was suddenly asked to come in and replace Zach Crawley to open, and didn't do particularly well. And suddenly he's surplus to requirements, not even in the conversation. And I'm not sure what that does to a player's confidence. It must hit quite hard. And I suspect that that's what's happened with Ollie Pope. He's he's been more than happy to go with the Bazball ethos, because who wouldn't? I mean, you're batting at 5 or 6 in an international team. Your captain comes to you and says, "We see you as a number 3, and we want you to play in this particular way. Get us moving." You're not really going to say no, are you?
No.
It's because it kind of feels like you're cementing your place for the long term in that side. So he's done that, but to my mind, he's had his technique completely ruined. We saw that he was considered almost the man to follow Ian Bell. He did look very Ian Bell-like in his early Test appearances, but it's gone now. I mean, you can see those shots, the shot that he played to get out to Lyon. I mean, what was he doing? And I've just I haven't read a piece because I can't get behind the paywall, and I hope someone will send it to me shortly. But Simon Wiles' piece basically saying Pope Test career is over. That to me is a knee-jerk reaction, and that's
Yes.
Simon Wiles, a highly respected writer, and I agree with a hell of a lot that he says. And it may just be the headline. If you dig down into the nuance of the story itself, there may be more to it. But surely you don't say Pope, a man with 9 Test centuries and 16 Test 50s, and one brilliant one in particular in India, is now at the age of 26, 27, no longer to be considered. It just seems crazy, and it does seem that if you buying into the ethos, yes, it can protect you for a while, but if ultimately you are seen as a failure, it seems that there's a kind of ruthlessness about McCullum and Stokes, perhaps. I don't know how much input he has in this. I'd like to think it was all McCullum just to blame one person, because in a sense, I love Ben Stokes as a cricketer. I think he's possibly our best ever all-rounder, but I wouldn't like to think that they are kind of plotting in a way, and once someone falls out of favor, they are never to be considered again. Will Jacks is the latest one to be thrown to the wolves, asking him to come in and be the main spinner, up against a guy who's got 550 test wickets. I mean, the comparison is crazy. He's gone for 100 in both innings in not that many overs. Would Shoaib Bashir have done any poorer? I can't believe he would have done. He might not have got 40 odd in the second innings, and perhaps that shows up something as we go into Melbourne, that Will Jacks maybe should get a chance higher up the order. He batted pretty well, and I'd be inclined to give Ben Duckett a rest as well. I mean, everyone could see, well, I think everyone could see at the end of the summer. I mean, he'd been playing in all formats. He looked jaded, and really struggled towards the end of the summer. And he'd been doing so well that the Ashes has come at the wrong time for him. And he's not been able to adjust. He's got some good balls. He's played a few bad shots. It's a bit of a mixture. But again, I think why do we have to have this knee-jerk reaction that everyone's got to be dropped? I mean, I saw something on Twitter today where a bloke had written the team for the next test, and it basically had I think it had Crawley at 3, it had 1 and 2 vacant, it had vacant at 4, it had vacant at 6. Well, hang on, that's Root and Stokes. What are you talking about, man? So there's this incredible knee-jerk reaction to everything.
That's often the way. I mean, but what basically people are doing is channeling their self-loathing as a result of England letting them down, and so they have scattergun.
I feel let down by England in lots of ways, and have done for many years. And as you said, you alluded to my book from 2006-7, which was disastrous in terms of a tour, but I actually think this one is worse. I'm glad I'm not on this one, because at the start of the series, to only get 4.5, 5 days from 2 test matches was just appalling, really appalling for all those people. 45,000 people apparently going out there. It's astonishing.
It's crazy.
I
want to direct you away from the playing field a little, because I don't suppose anything we say is something that hasn't already been said. But to the area of the media and the way they have behaved in not just during this series, but in the lead up to it. And it's always traditionally been an area where there's been plenty of bullshit spoken in the lead up to Ashes, and this was no different. But I had a sense this time that there was something more going on. Did you? You weren't happy with what you saw. I could tell that. What's your reaction to the way the media's behaved throughout this process?
Well, I don't really have any problem with the banter from Australia, really. I mean, it is the kind of thing that you get each year, and we've dished it out. I remember Tubby Taylor taking it terribly from the Mirror back in the day. I don't know, did they not take out some enormous wide cardboard cutout of a bat to him at one point?
Oh, I mean, yes, all that stuff's been going on. I was thinking more of the way in which so many so-called commentators have actually been cheerleaders for their particular teams, be it Hayden or be it Broad. And I know there are so many podcasts and so many articles to be written that they need to look after themselves. But my sense is that it's got to so much self-interest for some of those people that actually objectivity goes out the window, and they hitch their wagon to their team to an extent that may not have happened in the past because real journalists were actually writing the stories.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, as regards Stuart Broad, I actually saw his stage show. Grubby it was of Guerilla Cricket fame, who had a spare ticket and took me to Wimbledon Theatre to see him talking about his career. And I remember him saying that England needed to win that first test if they were going to have a chance. So that's kind of stuck with me. I haven't really heard a lot of what he's saying on live TV, obviously, because he's not been on British TV. I've watched his podcast occasionally with Joss Butler, and I found that quite entertaining, although I haven't really, and quite well done. I haven't really looked at it since the end of this test, I have to say. I've seen Nasser and Athers talking to various Australian personalities. Greg Blewett, I thought, talked really well, and wasn't. Of course, he wants Australia to win, but he, there for those people that really understand the game, there is a disappointment, isn't there? About not getting competitive matches or enough competitive matches, and I think. You could see that in the way I was made aware of Ricky Ponting during commentary talking about Jamie Smith. Now, I've had words to say about Jamie Smith. I think all this talk about it being, one of a generational talent, which has become the sort of byword now for anyone who comes into the England team and shows a little bit of spark. I just think it's nonsense. I really don't think he is a generational talent. He may go on to become one, but at the moment he certainly isn't. He plays eye-catching shots. He times the ball exceptionally well. But as we've seen, whenever the ball moves, he really struggles. And to my mind, that says, go back to Surrey, play matches early season, 4-day matches when the ball is moving around, and with the help of someone like Alex Stewart, who's now back in charge, and Gareth Batty, get that technique against the moving ball improved. You're always going to struggle against the moving ball because the moving ball is difficult to play. That's the whole point of it. But you can learn to judge when you should play and when you shouldn't, or you can have a better appreciation of that. And also, I think the pressure that he was under on the final day against India at the Oval, he seemed to go missing mentally that day, completely. And I think, he had a really good start to his Test career, but you have to remember it was against the West Indies and Sri Lanka at home. And although he's hit 100 since, and he had a pretty good series against India, he's still got a lot to learn. We didn't have many pitches or conditions in England in the summer because it was so hot where the ball was moving around significantly until we got to the Oval, strangely enough. So while it's easy to say, oh yeah, well, who can play the moving ball? Well, over the years, plenty of people. It's gone out of fashion. Possibly because of the one-day game, probably because of the one-day game, where you can flash at balls, and if it takes the edge, it goes flying down to third man, and you get a single at worst. So, but when you're doing that in a test match, it's a completely different kettle of fish. You've got Marnus Labuschagne diving to his left and snatching it off the turf almost. So, Jamie Smith,
he continues to annoy.
Well, he does continue to annoy, but I will say that my latest rant involves some praise for Marnus Labuschagne.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
But Jamie, I just wanted to say about Jamie Smith. He started to play really well in that second innings, and England. I wouldn't say they weren't on top, but they were beginning to make Australia think when he and Jacks were together. And then, having hit 9 runs off that over, he tries another big shot. Now why? And if you don't want to believe me, just go and take a look at what Ricky Ponting said about it. You know, and you're talking about one of the best Test cricketers there's been, and you know, he was saying, why did you need to do that? These are brilliant cricketers who know when to stick and when to twist. And unfortunately, the Bazball approach hasn't allowed England to do that. And occasionally we've seen, you go back to the press, occasionally we've seen the press saying, oh yeah, it looks like they've added a little bit of subtlety to the Bazball outlook. I've never really bought that. I don't think they have added much subtlety. Once or twice someone will play a slightly more composed innings and it allows the press to say that, but in general terms they haven't learned that. And even Zach Crawley Zach Crawley said when asked why he wasn't, you know, he was quite so slow in that second innings, was saying, well, they were bowling too well. Well, they always bowl well, the Australians. So what's changed? What's changed since you flashed 2 balls in the first over of Mitchell Starc at Perth, the opening of the game, and got out for a duck? You know, there is so much inconsistency in what is said and written that it kind of that is what makes me want to rant.
Yes, well, that's an appropriate point to draw a close. Well beyond my self-imposed time limit, but Zoom is going to impose a time limit on us shortly. Right. So we'll call it quits there. But the truth is, once Hendo draws breath, the rant can last for a very long time.
You're cutting me off in my prime.
I'm pleased for you to have the opportunity to get some of that energy out, actually, Hendo. But what we would do is encourage you to click on the link and go to Hendo's rant on what platform is it on?
It's on Substack.
On Substack. And have a look and see what you reckon. And if you enjoy it, there will be the capacity to actually contribute real money to maintain Hendo in the style to which he's accustomed.
Which is my really shabby curtains and lighting behind me is not particularly high. Obviously, I want people to pay for it. I'm having trouble setting up the payment system. So if you could pledge, as some people already have done, I'll get back to you when it's ready to roll, and then Brilliant. Hopefully the pound signs will light up in my eyes.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Hendo. I take this time to say thank you for all you've done, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas. And I look forward to catching up with you again for the Boxing Day Test match, where we will be on air for hopefully a more competitive event.
Well, one hopes so, but I'd be interested to see what England do, whether they they have to make some changes. Presumably Bethel has to come in for Pope. Don't know what else we'll wait and see. I imagine that Archer will probably rest. Sit this one.
Well,
out.
I hope for Bashir's sake that he gets an outing, because he's been treated appallingly, in my view.
Indeed. I will have to do a rant about that. I'll have to do about the rant about all the people who've been treated badly.
Yes.
So keep your eyes open for that one.
Thanks, Hendo. Okay. Talk later.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bessie. Cheers.
There's the bear in there, and Hendo as well. There are jingles they play, and swear words to yell. But come along and join the fun at Guerilla Cricket.